that this guy might be onto something. And I really hate this guy. To give an example, which might then lead you to the guy. Like a month or two ago, they posted with all these like sources. They were like the guy, what's his face, from the They Are Sunny, with all the strings attached, you know? He was like, so this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and like all the sources and whatnot. And his conclusion was that Blizzard and ESL had formed another multi-year deal. This was a month ago. Just to be super clear to you guys before anyone gets confused, there is no actual proof anywhere whatsoever that ESL and Blizzard are even talking, that ESL is interested in doing any type of circuit with StarCraft, or that Blizzard is at all interested, really, you know, especially before this patch randomly dropped. I mean, there was literally nothing. And so fortunately, most people were like, okay, this is a little hogwash, and I posted to him as well, being like, what the fuck's wrong with you? But this is what he does in like every place that he goes, and it's really, it takes a lot of my willpower not to post to almost everything this guy says, basically calling him out and like fixing these assumptions, which sometimes are so wrong. Anyone with a brain could detect that. But more so when there's like they're wrong, but there's enough going on that people could just default believe them. It's taken me a lot of willpower not to respond to every single one. But anyway, we're done. It's now 2 minutes into a game. So we got ourselves a series. ZombieGrub's rant about community people over. Bottom left, beyond top right, MaxPax. This is the upper bracket finals, so again, not the finals. And we do have Byun going for a bit of a cheeky opener. He did go for a proxy Rax. Well, not... I mean, it's a Maka Rax, I suppose. He not really proxied, just hiding it. The intent is that MaxPax goes, oh shit, this guy is proxying me. Pulls the probe back, perhaps even, just to use it as a scout. And then Byun gets to have MaxPax panic, maybe Chrono Boost something he shouldn't have, maybe add on a second gateway much faster than he should. Whatever the response would be, and then go nana boo boo. That didn't really happen, I would say. MaxPax might have gotten a stalker first, but he would have gotten a depth first. Possible. He might have chronoed the second unit as well when he would have chroned something else. So there might have been something, but it's not a lot. And then clearly the downside is that your barracks has a little bit less production time. Bakes a Marine then has to float. And then the command center has to be put on the high ground because you really don't have a lot of units. And I would say more so than a strong reaction, if it was a reaction to what MaxPax scouted initially, he can now use it to be the bully. And so in turn, Byun does have to build the command center on the high ground, So I guess TLDR. I don't know if it was a really effective opener for Byun, but it's kind of cute. Because then maybe the next game he does actually proxy, and then maybe MaxPax doesn't respond as strongly as he should. Speaking of next game, we should get predictions in. So we got ourselves a command center floating over now as we have the proper protection of the Terran base, which is just a cyclone. Now this could be a little too low of a protection measure if MaxPax was proxying himself or opening up with 2 gateways, but it is also a high ground, natural, so that's an extra added layer of safety. And as the game continues on, and MaxPax gets closer to a potential 3-gate blink build, which is his bread and butter, and which is exactly what he's doing, we are going to go ahead and grab the bunker on the high ground. Wood mine drop still going to occur, even though the opener and the usage of the factory was a little different. Again, okay, Byun just likes the speed. Anyone know if he was doing this before the patch? Is this just a reaction to the patch? Because, yeah, apparently the Banshee speed was at least in the hundreds of seconds. In the literally 110, 20, I don't know, but it was hundreds. And now it's 79 seconds, so that's quite a big difference. Would mine drop. Killed a probe by looks of things. Did it kill 2? No, that was the first scouting probe. And then just not much more to be done here. But keeping a couple of stalkers at home and getting tabs on how they're they're moving on gas-wise or third base-wise is always good usage of it. MaxPax's 3-gate is about to arrive. And Byun has his setup that he likes, apparently. Tanks and Banshees, yes, but Banshees with speed. Very unique. Cyclone lock on micro to the Warp Prism's really good. Didn't get the whole damage. But still. Making MaxPax reconsider using it on his next attempted attack, which now the Natural has 2 bunkers. He's taking this very, very seriously. Hero's good with his 3-gate. He won with his 3-gate in the last series. But I would say that MaxPax is still better. A couple SCVs go down that are building buildings, always annoying, but now that the tank is there, it's going to be harder to do that with a 3rd tank not on the way, actually. So this is... I mean, he got 2 bunkers, but he's not opting for a 3rd tank. Kind of puts him in the middle, I feel like, of the true extreme defense. The one that really screams, oh my god, this Terran is terrified of losing to MaxPax's 3-gate. It's like in the middle there. And as time goes on and less Stalkers arrive, and actually as basically the 4 Stalkers here arrive, that's already a bit of a tell that they're going to not dedicate to the attack. And we might see one of these bunkers salvaged. Stim is on the way, but in a pretty safe tech lab. Cyclone has gotten while it could, so nice eyes there from MaxPax. Observer is in surveillance mode, and that now reveals it. Sorry, but that's how the way it goes. Okay, the Banshees get found out. MaxPax, I don't know if he saw that with something. He might have seen them leave with the observer before it died, but that was very nice to get one out of the equation. Now no longer one-shotting the probes. Still need to worry about that one Banshee just coming on in, which in fact he is worried. MaxPax might have thought that Observer was still just out of range of the Marines, which is why he bothered to put it in surveillance mode. I don't think he forgot the patch, which is also possible, but I think he just, yeah. My assumption would be that that looked almost out of range of the Marines. Apparently it wasn't. 2 probes do go down, and the Banshee flying on through. Into the Natural she goes, and we'll get another 2. Should. Gets the 3rd one as well, but does die for it. At the end of the day, 2 Banshees kind of helping on the defense. I don't know if they were strictly necessary for the defense, but just their mere presence might have stopped MaxPax from doing something more adventurous. But then 2 Banshees with speed, only 5 probes killed. Doesn't sound great. 3rd CC is here. Observer will see that. 5 racks are set up now, but most importantly, 3rd CC is here. So it's not going to be a 2-base SCV pool. Observer is just going to have to stay on surveillance mode. I still would argue that surveillance mode can be useful out on the map. And that's, I think, actually what maybe the designers of the patch are intending, is that it can't be used very offensively, which is quite good for the Protoss, but it can be used defensively. So surveillance mode here, probably not going to get killed. Here, probably not going to get killed. Even here, right, until the rocks are broken down, probably not going to be killed. And I would say, that makes sense to me. Like, game design wise, having the Observer have less vision if it's offensively used makes sense to me. I know the Observer change is very heated. I've already gone through it in my own video about the patch notes, which you can check it out with !patch. But in a quick recap, maybe I gotta hold off on that actually. Colossus is here. MaxPax looking, not to end the game of course, but MaxPax is looking to take some engagements. Start to dwindle the bio numbers, start to dwindle the medevac energy, maybe catch those tanks as well if he can get a bit lucky, and those Zealots are prepared to come in on the backside, go for a big old surround. MaxPax actually could end the game here if this round's good enough, but more bio coming on the other side. Surround turns into a surround for the Terran as the bio manages to slip on out. The tanks are destroyed for it, but a lot of Zealots go down. The Colossus falls, the Immortal falls as well, and MaxPax thought that he had the plan, thought he was the hunter. Turns out Byun was the hunter. He was actually really ready to go for that. A couple Marauders diving a little bit too far forward, very weakened early on. A couple good pickoffs right there, but the Colossus does go down. Oh, that last Viking shot does the trick, so ends up being worth it as Byun has now pushed MaxPax all the way back to his base, and now MaxPax is missing, well, a lot, honestly. He does not have a very strong army in any shape or form. Needs the AoE, needs more Zealots. He's going to warp in Stalkers, and that might be the better decision, actually. Defensively, in these smaller battles, for now anyway, the Stalkers are going to be very useful, also protecting the Colossus that has finally arrived, obviously, from the Vikings. Sometimes the instinct is to warp in the Zealots, right? Things that'll buy you time, things that won't melt the Marauders. is so tempting, but really good Protosses will notice when Stalker Warpings are actually essential, even in a really heated moment like that. And MaxPax is a pretty good Protoss. 2-1 is being researched for MaxPax as he is on 4 bases. That was a very scary moment for MaxPax, 100%. But he has the economy to kind of afford a scary moment like that, assuming he doesn't truly snowball, which it was close to doing. 5th base is now on the way as well, and he's already got 80 probes. Hero in that one 20-minute game actually just stopped at 69. But looks like MaxPax going up to 81 probes, not just because he wants to, but because he is actually getting the gases. Now this is kind of interesting. I mean, I guess he still hasn't gotten his 4th gas in his natural, but he's still going up to 5 gases. Math is hard. No, 6 gases. He's got one on the 3rd as well. Which is going to make him less zealot heavy. And I wonder what he's going to do with that, which it seems to be just for now. The 2nd robo's coming down, maybe even a 3rd one as well. Here, again, to just not talk about the PTR for a second and more so talk about reverting Protoss. It's not a reversion. They definitely have gotten nerfed. But just keep that aside for a second. If we're just looking at it as, well, now Protoss has to play like they did a year and a half ago, MaxPax was the one leading the charge at that stage. He was the one that I think was actually showing what more could be done without direct patches to Protoss. And the first thing that I think he really was doing better than every other Protoss, well, the first thing was the 4-gate, so it was bad. But the second thing, a little bit of an engagement going down here. We're fighting across the bridge for either side. It's very dangerous. The second thing that I think he did really well was that he was burning medevac energy. I really feel like this, and the reason I noticed this was not because I immediately hawk-eyed noticed his intent. No, it's because game after game, I was talking more about medevac energy than I ever had before in this matchup. Like, that was something that you might have talked about if they could never get up to 4 medevacs before they went to Vikings, you know? But other than that, typically you didn't really have to talk about it. And then suddenly I was non-stop talking about medevac energy and how much the bio-army wasn't being healed. And I think that MaxPax is really the one that did it most, like, pervasively. Or, I don't know, or he did actually notice that that was a weakness. I'm not sure, but the point is, like, I think he's the one that did it the best. And I think that he's going to go back to that. So that's that constant bullying without really pulling the trigger. Well, that was a nice shot. Again, Marauder's not dying immediately for that. He's going to go back to that. So he's not going to look for direct engagements that just one and done. He's going to take engagements where he can back out of, ideally, after dealing a lot of damage, although this one is still going to look a little bit bad for him. The Zealots are all gone. The Colossus are falling. The Disruptors are falling. The Force Fields aren't stopping the Bio Army, and that was definitely not it. Disruptors are going to get a couple of good shots, but not nearly good enough, I would say, as they are going to lose their lives as well. The rest of the army falls too, but MaxPax does have almost 2,000 minerals in the bank. His gas is struggling, but he is on those triple robos. That would be one reason why. And he just afforded 3-3, as well as a Dark Shrine, so that would explain the gas problem. But he did have a lot of Stalkers already rebuilt, so he was about to have more Zealots as well. And Byun pretty much just predicted that, probably having played MaxPax a billion times, approximately. Probably knows that he has played one too many games where he has thought, yes, this is it, this is it, this is it. That was a really good fight for me. This is it, let's go. And then ran into a brick wall of Protoss. So good call from him, but make a mistake. MaxPax definitely made a mistake right there. Yeah, now 5,000 resources in the hole. But he has his 5th. He has his 6th. Or 5, 6, there you go. And so he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to make those mistakes, you know, not game ending, but mistakes, I would say. But to my original point, it still stands. Ideally, taking engagements that don't necessarily they don't end the game. Ideally, they end the game, obviously. But they don't end the game as a goal. But what they can do is keep the Terran down. Keep them delayed at the 4th base, keep them medevac count low, keep the Viking count low, keep the medevac energy low. And then once you realize the Terran is battered and bruised, that's when you really go for the throat. Another straight up mistake being made. No way around it. MaxPax rattling his robo into the army as he kind of started to change the position that he wanted. Went more towards the 4th than perhaps he had anticipated. Zealots and DTs trying their best to go after the 3rd CC, but that was apparently well protected by a group of bio units. MaxPax trying to go for his 7th now, which should be canceled. MaxPax, I mean, notably, the observer count, not very high. But he has also I don't know if this is because of the change, but I think we have seen a lot of robo units die. And despite having 3 robos, which is really quite a good number, he has been constantly replacing robo units. And Colossus and Disruptors will take precedent. Will take the priority. There you go, priority. As you take these battles over and over again. Huge battle happening in the middle of the map. All the Colossus not quite in the front line. Zealots coming in only after most of the Brethren are already dead. This is one sloppy fight for both, really. As Byun is also pushing through the bridges, but it looks like it is going into Byun's favor. 16 probes have gone down as the Bio Army doesn't just find the 7th, but it also finds what was the 3rd, I think. And is going to find the Dark Shrine as well. Going to be cleaned up. MaxPax still has other bases to mine from, but that was one extra blow he was not willing to take. Canceling this base, yeah, okay, that happens. But this one, that was the base plus the probes and a bit of technology. A couple medevacs die for the cause, but some of them still survive. Triple Robo still in play and still being utilized, but MaxPax probably not super happy with these engagements. Byun just wishes that they would be a little more game-ending. He is finding Colossus out of position. He is finding Disruptors on the front line. He is finding Zealot numbers too low. I mean, he is finding opportunities, but it's not quite perfect. His Marauders are a little away. His medevac count's a little low. His Viking count is actually nothing. And those are what's keeping the engagements going so perfectly for him. The Viking count, particularly right now, being the main problem, but it looks like he's not going to replace the Vikings. He is trying to go into those Liberators, and if he can get to a good number, that would be fantastic. But this is a very dire situation. MaxPax has managed to still max out despite the economic losses with 4 Colossus, as someone has 0 anti-air. The best thing Byun can do is get us around, which MaxPax is going to be keen not to let happen. Marauders falling here, even though they have 3-2. MaxPax has 3-3. Liberators are finally popping out, and these chokes will be beautiful for them. But this is a harrowing situation. MaxPax has cleaned up the drop as well, so he can finally start re-expanding. He's going to go after the 3rd base. He sees an opportunity. He's going to try and push on through. Liberator does die. More Liberators are on the way, but the Marauder count has dwindled. This is an even-ish army supply, but I feel like that's a lie even. Okay, now 40 army supply less. That feels way closer to the situation. As Zealots are coming in, they are coming in not from a proxy, so that is keeping Byun alive right now. We still have 3 Colossus. We still have the ability to finally remake, I think, the War Prism too, and those Liberators are going to hold for so long. Stalkers blink on in, kill 2 of them. 2 of them still going strong, but not much else. And that is that. GG's. MaxPax got into a really great macro position. And so even though some of those engagements didn't look ideal, they apparently were still good enough. MaxPax wins game 1. MaxPax's resource collection rate. That's what I wanted to look for. Look at this graph. Only got to Byun's point at the actual end of the game. So even though he lost bases and he lost probes, apparently that still didn't... There was still some left over that he just kind of used to rebuild that maxed out army. It worked out. Who needs Storm, not MaxPax? I mean, yeah. I think MaxPax wasn't one player who was going into Storm like I had vision of. You know, I really liked... I feel like I saw Showtime starting to do it. Before the overcharge change, we had the Colossus opener into mid to late game Storms editions, and I really liked that. But it still wasn't very common. Not everyone was doing it. I don't think MaxPax was doing it. Then the overcharge change, and obviously everyone was doing a Storm. But even then, I feel like MaxPax wasn't doing it as much. So to MaxPax, besides the Observer change, this might not feel like the incredible difference that it feels like to other Protosses anyway. The ones who had really gotten on board with the Storm. Top left is MaxPax, bottom right is Byun around Pylon. Yeah, very, I think it's actually a very fun game. I think Byun you know, you see all these opportunities as the caster, as the Terran player, where you're just like, I killed a Colossus, I killed Disruptors. And even if it sacrifices 4 Marauders, which would actually be more expensive than what you killed, the idea is kind of similar to like when the Blink Stalker attack faces the tanks, right? Which is like, yeah, maybe directly resource-wise it wasn't the trade, but as far as the overall potential. Tanks out of the equation, now that zone is open. The Colossus out of the equation, now the AoE's gone, and it is very expensive to rebuild in both resources and time. You only have so much robo capabilities. So that often just feels amazing. That looks great. And I will say that the engagements, they looked like MaxPax made mistakes over and over again. But at the end of the day, they didn't kill him. He had gotten to a very settled 6 base position before things started to go truly awry. And that kept him in the game. And Byun was obviously losing some of his own units in all those attempts. He did have to reach a little bit extra to kill the Colossus. That cost him a few more Marauders. That cost him the rest of his Vikings. I do think at the end of the day, what actually killed Byun was his attempted transition to Liberators. I mean, so what kind of happened was that there was an engagement that definitely went Byun's way. I think he did take a supply lead. And he started running around, right? Kind of killing whatever he could. MaxPax clearly wasn't going to die, but he had lost his 4th or 3rd, whatever it was. His natural was being attacked. And Byun was on 4 bases, right? Yeah, I don't think he got into a 5th. But he had given a lot to do all that, not able to replace it as fast as MaxPax, who was using the remnants of his earlier economy to just max out again. And he wasn't building Vikings. He was trying to transition over into that Liberator. And that can be a very deadly moment. If you do it without anything going wrong, like the Protoss isn't even attacking you, and suddenly you have 6 Liberators with range, beautiful, fantastic. Terran's probably going to win. But that wasn't it, was it? Speaking of not it, MaxPax going for that early Zealot attack against Byun, who has decided to go for the Marauder opener. This works out really well for Byun. Marauder slow will finish, and then the Zealot will have absolutely 0 chance. There you go. There it is. The Adept also is in some trouble. Second Marauder is out. He's going to prioritize the Adept before he can shade away. Very nicely done by Byun. The Zealot does get a couple of good swipes in, but did a little jumping jack before it died. Did you see that? I will say also, kudos to MaxPax, who did make sure to at least delay the command center, the goal of that opener. So even though it faced an opener that I would say kind of does counter it, it still got some delay on the command center. Second Adept kind of comes in all sneaky-deaky-like. Isn't going to catch the supply depot down, but is going to catch a couple of SCVs. And because it was the Adept, not the Shade, they got to the supply depot, it saw the extra 2 barracks. That's really important. The 3 racks, a bit archaic, honestly. Really done in the professional scene, because the Sentry was the other thing that last patch had changed. Suddenly Protosses were very keen on getting an early Sentry, and they always scouted what the hell you were doing. Even before that, though, 3 racks was very common in the professional sense. Adept is going to be surrounded and killed. That's a decent amount of lost mining time. The scout alone is probably worth it. And we did have the defense of MaxPax against the Marauders that are headed across the map. So this puts Byun into a kind of weird position where maybe if he had been planning on keeping this secret and thus actually going for the stim timing with this, going across the map and saying, you know, surprise, sucka, killing all the stalkers, and then just immediately attacking into the natural. Maybe he doesn't do that anymore, because MaxPax is clearly going to be a lot more in tune to that idea. He's going to be way more attentive to his stalkers. Bunker's not going to finish. Very nicely done. Stim is not quite finished. Bio count's not super big. Blink isn't finished, though, either, so okay. Maybe he thought Blink was going to be finished a little faster than it was. That's why he dived so hard. So a little bit tit for tat on the resource trade. Bunker does finish, however. And MaxPax, well, he's going into his 3-gate Robo with a Warp Prism made. He makes it almost every single game. I don't know how much he's really going to commit to it. The 3 racks against the 3-gate, I think there's a sliver of opportunity for the 3-gate before the Bio Ball has really gotten to a good number. But I think it's very, very small. Byun ready for the blink into the main, assuming the bunker will hold if he has to change position. Nice supply depot position, just out of range of the low ground stalkers. And maybe MaxPax now only looking for the micro moments. He's going to warp in a couple more stalkers. And you do want a certain number of stalkers in any PvT game, but how much is he really going to push this? Bunker is in trouble. Some bio is left over there, so it's not going to, I guess, be more of an issue. The problem for the 3 racks is that your starport is super late, your medevacs are super late, and so every stim actually hurts you. And so that's why Byun can't just say, hey, stalkers, get the hell out of here, and stim. Nice, use the high ground right there, doesn't lose a stalker in turn. Well, now he does. Warp Prism is maybe looking to threaten, but I don't know. This, I mean, Byun didn't have to go across the map right there. Being the offender, the best defense, a good offense, was probably at the end of the day a good idea. But Byun didn't necessarily have to do that. I wondered if he was going to actually push into the natural, but Byun is not going to go for it. Perhaps fearing the Warp Prism wreaking havoc on his SCVs, perhaps figuring that there's a shield battery and the Mortal ready, so let's not bother trying to go for the Bio Ball attack. Either way, pushes out, pushes the Stalkers back, pulls back, and is now finally getting to those medevacs. He still won't have a more ideal ratio of bio to medevac as you would in other builds, but the bio ball will be very large. If you don't have as many medevacs, you also don't have as much mobility, something the Protoss can try and take into account, not have to worry as much about multi-pronged aggression. Nice defense of the Warp Prism, which needs to skedaddle at this point, trying its best to be the distraction as the Stalkers look to get in the front lines and take down a couple of these Marauders. Fortunately, I don't think any one of them went down. Stalker goes down, second Stalker will fall. Sim's wearing off, the Stalkers come back in, try their best to get a couple of kills. I mean, not exactly what MaxPax wanted, but he does have to keep tabs on the bio. Medevac's out, we can push in, but 2 Immortals are here, Guardian Shield. I mean, recharge is still available, it's just 50, not 75 anymore. A couple of Zealots just to make sure to have something across the map. Oh, the SCVs have been pulled. Well, that's important too. SCV pulled, no 3rd CC, 4th and 5th barracks were done. Did MaxPax pick up on this one? I did not. No, he didn't actually see the natural. He's been scouting the main the entire time, but not in a way that necessarily said there was not a 3rd CC, so I'm not sure he actually knew this was going to be an SCV pull. Well, this could be very dangerous indeed. The Observer had moved away as well at maybe the exact wrong moment. 1 shield battery, that's it. A good-sized army, but is it going to be enough? SCVs are tanking so much damage. Colossus comes in, and maybe, but it's kind of on the wrong side. It's all alone. It can't really get involved as much as it would like to. Immortal's starting to go down. Medevacs out of juice. A couple more coming in the nick of time. Widowmine's also getting involved as well, so more Zealots could be problematic. The Widowmines don't get the shots. Not really the shots right there. The bio's almost gone. MaxPax might have just held. I think he did. I don't know if he did realize it was a 2 base all in, but well, okay, I spoke too soon. I definitely spoke too soon. There is more bio than I thought. I saw that little remnant of bio being cornered and thought that might be it, but it is not. Medevacs are healing up the rest of the army. A couple of units coming across the map might just be good enough. They're at even supply. MaxPax still at 50 probes. They're about to be 1 Nexus lower. Warp Prism goes across the map with just 1 Zealot, ensuring that this is going to be as all-in as freaking possible. I mean, clearly this has done some economic damage to Protoss by killing the Nexus, but so many SCVs died. 2 command centers means 2 mules, and there's no Dark Shrine in the play, but there could be. Oh, no, there is! Yeah, I was gonna say, if you figure it's a 2 base all-in, you can add that Dark Shrine. You kind of should. It's one of those that might have just been a little bit too much gone into the future to not survive the now, but if you do survive the actual SCV pull, the Dark Shrine is worth its weight in gold. They will not be able to mule drop, they will not be able to replace the SCVs that they lost. They will have to keep it for scans. Which it looks like Byun didn't see the Dark Shrine, but he figures that's a possibility, and so he was not being greedy with the mules. It still sucks though, because like, even though you're not dying to the DTs, like they're still doing indirect damage. And not direct damage occasionally. Nexus is being rebuilt. And once that's rebuilt, MaxPax has that 3-base saturation again because he kept most of his probes alive. That's going to be it. Byun has one more opportunity to win this game. War Prism is recalled out, saving units inside of it as well. And it is very good to help micro the Colossus when the second inevitable SCV pull happens. I mean, I don't know if it's really going to be an SCV pull, but 31 SCVs. I feel like you should just pull them all. There's no winning unless you win right now. MaxPax is down 30 army supply. That's a bit deceiving. He's also down an upgrade, but 3 Colossus against only 2 Vikings. Force fields could buy time as well. I think that's exactly what MaxPax is going to do. As much damage as possible. Loses the Colossus, then the Force fields come down. Second Colossus is also going to go down. Uh-oh. Oh no. I don't believe more than 1 Colossus was supposed to fall in that particular engagement. Not when there's only 2 Vikings firing away, but the Marauders just got close enough. Extended Thermal Lance was researched, and yeah, still losing them. That really sucks. Now the Colossus is being chronoed, lickety split, but that third base is once again in trouble. MaxPax, Shield Battery gonna go down. Guardian Shield is up, but that's so many Marauders. Byun might still be winning this game. Medivacs still have some juice in them. Zealots are gone. No more force fields. Third base gonna have to be sacrificed. Hits him around 15 probes, also died. Ghost Academy's even being built. I mean, Byun. 1 DT at a time could still be a play. We're all talking about 2 command centers after all. It is a very risky play. Basically, you have to assume you need at least 4 DTs. 5? No, 4. Like, more than 2 DTs, right? Because you assume that they're going to have at least 1 scan on each orbital every time. In this case, it's more than that, so that would be unfortunate. And that's a lot to afford. That is a lot to afford. You can see in MaxPax, I think he realizes how desperate he is. He knows that wasn't a secondary SCV pool. However many SCVs were there, about 20-something, with his scouting, were kept at home. And while the mules weren't dropping, the SCVs were being rebuilt. They were steadily mining. If that was an SCV pool that just killed the third Nexus, I would still say that MaxPax has a really good shot. But the fact that it wasn't, MaxPax knows how desperate it is. It's not going to be for DT 1 at a time. Cheesy play. He's going to try and add in some Archons, which is a good idea. But because Byun didn't SCV pool again, he did remake the SCVs, he has EMPs. That is a terrible sight for MaxPax right there. As an engagement does go down, apparently, the Colossus, 3 of them this time around, not being taken down, but the front line is. One of them will go down to the Marauders. They did a lot of damage while they were alive, however, and those Archons did tank quite a bit. Medivacs also running out of energy. Everything forced to flee. MaxPax will hold, but he is not replacing his third Nexus. He knew how desperate of a hold that was going to be. He put every last resource into whatever he could muster. +1 had also finished, which was no doubt helpful for that particular engagement. This is a very, very close game. 1 DT, gonna try and kill, let's say, 6 SCVs perhaps. War Prism's now in trouble. Do we have a recall? I'm not sure it would survive the recall. It's already injured. No, now it definitely won't. 5 SCVs do go down. Gonna force the scan. I think he realized it was gonna happen, so he tried to get that last SCV. 5 for 1 DT. I think would be fine if you were on 3 bases. MaxPax now at this point trying to get those minerals. It still bodes very poorly for the Protoss, to be honest. I mean, in terms of scrappy, if we had a number to give to scrappiness across the races, I would say that Terran is definitely a 10. And I'm not actually sure who is the best at being scrappy. Protoss or Zerg? Protoss with DTs, I feel, particularly, would be better than Zerg. Yeah. But more so to the point, Terran is very scrappy. They will keep on living. They will be the cockroach. Byun also has a secondary form of reveal. The EMPs can now be used for the DTs, although you still want to keep the scans for at home because the ghosts need to be on the front lines. It's tough. It's very tough. Hallucination, kind of given the idea of the scenario, sees the SCV count still pretty good, but just like MaxPax, the mineral count is not. Both of them desperately need another base, but only one of them has the ability to lift and land. So, it still, again, bodes poorly for MaxPax. Another engagement is happening. EMPs are available. Those Archons just simply melt on the front line. One Disruptor Shot going to try and help. Does get a couple of Marauders, but doesn't kill them, and that is going to be it. GG. Byun wins with the 2-base SCV pool. It took an extra 9 minutes, but that is what won the game. And the series is tied up. We're on Maganatha. Top, bottom right is MaxPax. Top left, it is Byun. Byun's SCV pool, just good enough. And I'm not convinced MaxPax knew it was going to be a 2-base, but I'm not really sure, actually. I'd have to go back on the replay. Not just to see what he scouted, but also to see what he had already built, because if he had been going to a 4th base, I think very clearly he doesn't know that it's a 2-base, but then again, we've actually seen Protoss scout a 2-base SCV pool 100%. They saw the lack of 3rd, they saw the 5 barracks, they even see the SCV pool, and then they plan out a 4th. And my thought process on that was just that they think the 4th could buy some time. But, yeah, if it was down, it would have been like, yeah, MaxPax definitely didn't know. If he had more shield batteries, I also would have said, oh, he definitely knew. But 1 shield battery a base, 2 immortals, I think was really the 3 racks response. He also wasn't in a position to try and force field the army to buy time. Might have been another reason, maybe he didn't, another sign he didn't know it was on the way. I mean, if he didn't know, that was still a pretty solid attempt at a hold. It did get very, very close. If he did know, I'm sure there's some other things he could have done better, but it's always difficult to hold a 2-base SCV pool. I do think time buying would have been the best, right? I mean, taking the engagements as often as possible without fully committing, because the downside to that particular 2-base SCV pool was the lack of medevacs. But a hell of a lot of bio. Definitely a lot of bio. We do not have Byun doing the same build again. 3 racks is uncommon. Found on smaller maps as well, usually. This is not a small map. Reaper opener from Byun 2, so not trying to do anything tricky like the Marauder opener, and MaxPax, well, he's doing something pretty normal as well. Did scout that it is a factory expand and is grabbing a 2nd Adept. That's Twilight Council, because it's what he does 80% of the time. Every now and again, MaxPax opens up with a Stargate. He seems awfully uncomfortable with it, though, in this matchup. I'm sure he's comfortable as in he has played it a lot and he's good with it overall, but it's just one of those at the very tippity top facing the best of the best Terrans like Byun. His Phoenix play is not nearly as good as his Blink play. Reaper scouts, 1 Reaper, 1 Hellion. Not a lot of information right now. It is going to be 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, however, and that is something MaxPax would like to discover. He has a shield battery at home. The 2 Adepts are not playing with fire. They know that that's a possibility off of what they saw, so they are going to scout as much as they can and then shade back home to provide a little bit of DPS. Wall is being created too. I mean, this is a pretty good guess as far as a factory opener goes, that it is going to be this particular opener. Great timing on the Adept Shade. Sees the attack, pulls back, did so while building a wall. Very nicely done. Shield battery plus Adept walls for a decent amount of time, and that is simply going to be a perfect defense. This is exactly what you want to have happen. They can get a little screwy. If you don't have the shield battery, for instance, they can burst through that. Obviously, the Reaper could have grenaded, but it already bought just that extra second of time that the extra units were coming down. If you don't realize what it is and an Adept is lost on the front lines, like, it can get bad, but this is pretty damn perfect. And it is a 3 gates Robo with a Nexus lickety split. I don't know with this version of the build that MaxPax will grab the Warp Prism. He does it a lot. I mean, as far as whoever 3 gate Robos into 3rd Nexus, I mean, MaxPax is the one most dependable to grab the Warp Prism as well. Whether he thinks he's going to attack, defend, harass. He loves the warp prism. But every now and again, there is a game like this, where he doesn't grab it, he doesn't warp in as many stalkers as possible, and he does prioritize the economy as well as the observers. And the key thing is just not to put them in surveillance mode. I think Protosses probably are very uncomfortable with that. Habit is hard to break. You immediately rally them, and then as soon as you realize it, or as soon as you can shift queue it, you surveillance mode them. Can't do that anymore. Hellion Reaper was trying to find some cheeky transferring probes, but MaxPax was already prepared for that. And 8 Stalkers is a pretty good amount to defend with as he starts to add on additional technology. 2 tanks have been built. 3rd tank is on the way, actually. So this, I pointed out in one of the previous games, first game, I think. Didn't grab the 3rd tank, wasn't scared of the Blink Stalker attack killing him. This time around, I don't think he's scared of the Blink Stalker attack. He has seen the 3rd Nexus, which doesn't mean there's a Stalker's about to attack him, but he's really seen 0 Stalker movement, because the Reaper Hellion has been moving around. And that could say, hey, they're not going to attack you. I think this actually might just be for A, defense of his 3rd, or B, I think it's A. I'm not even gonna go for B. B was offense. I don't think it's gonna be for offense. I think he just likes 3 tanks on this map. This is what he did last time on Naginata as well. Might be the way that the army positioning plays out, where there's a lot of ways for the Terran, the Protoss to attack into you, and 3 tanks can settle nicely behind some of these pillars and then not be touched, and then protect you when you are not very Viking heavy. Hey, Banshees were made, but not with the speed. Instead with the cloak, good old-fashioned Banshees. This is something that I don't know if MaxPax saw. I don't think he did. No observer back at home. 2 Banshees arrive, immediately kill a sentry. Gonna look for the second one, perhaps? Decide to go for the probes instead. I do think that's the better call. He maybe gets a sentry later on. Even scans the natural and sees that there's no observer. And that is a pretty damn good sight. MaxPax with 0 idea about the Banshee. The observer went across the map, but apparently after the Banshees were already created. And so this is bad news. MaxPax taking almost catastrophic damage at this point. That is an entire mineral line now dead. 17 probes have been killed. More to come. The Banshees, even without speed, still running away from the observer very effectively, and now they could die. Knowing they did great things for the Terran Dominion Confederacy. I don't know what they are, but 28 probes killed. They're going to get some type of reward. That is game-deciding damage, actually. That is the most I've seen Banshees do in a PvT in a while. That is disgusting. Byun can't quite say, okay, game over, man. I'm just going to go ahead and run across the map. Can't quite do that. But I feel like it is a matter of time. Right now, MaxPax has the army that he built with the original probe count, so it's still okay, I think, at this particular moment in time. It's okay. It's not great. It's okay to start maybe trying poking and prodding like he was going to do. But the time at which he could depend on this army to do that has shortened dramatically. It looks like he's even just going to try and all in. This is a futile attempt, though. Not quite going to work out the way that he was anticipating. 1 tank, all the tanks are dead, but the bio has stayed mostly alive. MaxPax's attack, I mean, it's not without some merit. This has traded fairly well, beyond perhaps surprise at the audacity. 3 tanks did not end up holding as long as he was hoping for. Now they are completely gone. Can't be depended on for the future when more Colossus are remade. 1 more already on the front lines. In fact, Viking numbers actually dying as soon as they pop out. Wait a second. Was that the perfect timing? Is Byun actually going to lose to this? He's forced to pull out the Punker Marauders. He's forced to pull the SCVs. Colossus will go down to the last Viking shot. The SCV starting to fall, however, is going to be return damage from MaxPax's Banshee problem. Woo! MaxPax has such a good eye for engagements. Goddamn. I mean, he equal upgrades. 2 Colossus, yes, but 3 tanks in position. Like, sieged, I should say. They were sieged. Bio that was in good number. There is at the start of that fight, there is at least a 15 army supply difference in the Terran's favor. There's a lot of reasons to why that probably shouldn't have been as good as it was, but we have to rewind and rewatch because that actually worked out maybe just as much as it needed to. Like, just enough. Warp Prism, not going to find a lot of damage in the main base. I think these 8 SCVs are still from the... oh, no, maybe there are additional 8 SCVs. Okay. I thought they were the original 8 SCVs. They are not, so the Warp Prism did 5 damage in the main, or the third, wherever the hell it went. 9 SCVs now. Zealot gets a couple extra, and that means that MaxPax has taken a worker lead. It's only a 1 worker lead, but still. I can fix that. Warp Prism goes back in. Leaves, comes back in, can't explain it, blah, blah, blah. Warp Prism gonna be recalled. Really doesn't want to lose that pressure. The Zealots kill 5 extra SCVs, which for 4 Zealots isn't exactly great, but just continuing to keep SCVs in production, taking away resources from other things. MaxPax, I mean, similar boat, though. Like, ideally, he would already have been saturated on 4 bases. Easy peasy if he hadn't lost 33 probes in this game, but it is what it is. That's why I keep on emphasizing, I feel like that attack, it was surprisingly good. It looked like it even could maybe have ended the game in a really, truly perfect scenario. But I do actually think when the dust settled, it was only just enough to get MaxPax in the game. Because it did kill a couple FCVs, it did almost reset the bio count, it did reset the Viking count, but MaxPax had taken so much damage. And he also lost a lot of army in it. DT should have been more of a nuisance. Even though that was the first time they appeared, I believe. They were dealt with swiftly. Only 3 ACVs go down. Tower destroyed just to lessen the opportunity for MaxPax to find angles. Warp Prism is going to be found and killed this time. No escape for it. One less thing for Byun to worry about. Who holds on to about a 20 armor supply lead. Researching 2-2 only at this moment, so MaxPax has caught up in upgrades, but he doesn't have a second forge as of yet, so that's still gonna, I think, favor Byun. Well, there's gonna be a time where Byun is favored, and then they'll go into MaxPax's favor again, but that is PPT. 4 Colossus is the number for going into Disruptors, getting to that second Robo, as he also tries to grab a 5th base, 76 probes, definitely not bad at this point. He has recovered from the economic losses earlier on. And really made this into a very even-looking game. I mean, if he did not strike at that particular moment, the way that the person who maxed out first would have been Byun by a landslide. And he would have maxed out, well, probably getting his 4th base, no problem, while getting his upgrades probably faster as well, because his 2-2 could have been faster, I think. Pretty sure. And he would have also not really been afraid of MaxPax at any point. The Warp Prism was the one thing that was really scary. You could have been out on the map, you could have been stopping MaxPax from producing probes and trading out army efficiently, and, well, instead, Byun did lose the army when he did lose a couple of SCVs, did have some struggles. And so he has to kind of wait patiently. It's not just the easy game over that I think it would have been. But is it ever easy versus MaxPax? No. Even when he is undeniably dying, MaxPax manages to hold on in a lot of games. At this point, definitely not dying. 5 bases still might be not exactly comfortable, because he really hasn't had that same tempo to this game that you would appreciate. The Protoss wants to be on the front. It wants to be in your face, forcing the Terran to move from natural to 3rd to 4th to 3rd to 4th, making him worry about the Warp Prism in the main, making him worry about DTs blinking on the planetary. And then all the times that MaxPax is throwing army away, he's replacing it because he's on 5 bases, 6 bases, 7 bases. So this is, I would still say, scary for the Protoss, actually. Even though he's maxed out with decent upgrades and 5 bases, I would still say this is scarier for the Protoss. Their army does melt unless it gets a pretty good engagement. As the Terran army gets to its upgrades, gets to its almost 30 Marauder count, gets to 12 Vikings. You know, that's, it's a good army. MaxPax, he's making sure to take fights outside of his own bases. Trying to track the Terran army as well. He still does use the observers. Observer, singular, but it's not in surveillance mode. It's still helpful. And if he doesn't use observers, he's very good about putting zealots around or even probes for some scouting. Byun is going to try and transition into Liberators at this point. There is Liberator range, +2 ship weapons on the way, and now he just needs to lose some supply to add in those Liberators, but with the 4 command centers being put down, kind of tells you as to where the Terran headspace is at, what their ultimate motive is. If they had, been attacking you, they probably would be replacing units, not building 4 extra command centers. Despite Byun's movement, never really a dedication to the attack. Once that perfect Terran army with Liberators were really moving out onto the field, moving into MaxPax's bases. So MaxPax does get his 6th, excuse me. It's one of those 6 that's very dangerous, though, because once Liberators are out, they can just park themselves here. 7th on the way in the corner, too. Byun seems content the way that this game has gone. Yes, he probably could have won after killing 30 probes. And seemingly, with a good army remaining, it really feels like most of the Protoss would not have attacked in. They would have said, nah, just like scare him a little bit and then keep the army alive while I try to replace the economy. And I think that still would have ended in the Protoss' death. It would have been an understandable call for Protoss to make. I still think it would have been dead Protoss. But instead, MaxPax chooses that right moment. It does just enough. And so Byun has to accept the game that has been given to him. And there's a game in which now he can't just say, okay, you're definitely dead. Just get out of the game, kid. He actually has to really try. 5th base is up and now. Killed the observer that was tracking it with the missile turret. Missile turret, speaking of, now defending the space appropriately versus even speedy warp prisms, of which they do have speed. Observers also have speed. 3-1 for the Protoss, +2 about to finish for the armor. 3-3, very close to finishing for Byun as well. I mean, he's very, very close to having the absolutely perfect composition. And 1 Liberator sieged up, because why not? This is absolutely what you get on Maganatha. Is it fair? Eh. But then again, the Protoss does have other bases they can start taking. Liberator number is getting awfully high. It's at 6, and I think we could go up to even 12. Maybe lose a couple of medevacs. Yeah. It is actually kind of tough to decide exactly what you want to give up here, but a number as high as 10 Liberators often feels good. But it's 4 more medevacs, actually. Instead of more Liberators. All the miscellaneous upgrades coming in as well. +3 ship weapons doesn't have a change in the kill shot, but still more damage. This does seem to now be a position in which both players could win. 3 minutes ago, before the Liberators were out, but then again, before MaxPax had an extra 2 or 3 bases. Yeah, I was kind of more scared for the Protoss taking a bad engagement than I was for the Terran buckling under the pressure. But now it really is the classic PvT scenario. The Terran's army, pretty much better. A lot of damage being done on both sides right there. More so for Protoss as they dip down in supply, but yeah. Terran army is better in a straight-up fight, just mano-a-mano a lot of times, with all their units pre-siege, Vikings getting the shots, whatever. But the Protoss army, well, it can't win the first and, potentially only fight, I guess. It can win over time. It just needs to make sure that this is not the only fight. That they are not completely taken down, every last Zealot, Stalker, and Disruptor. And it will whittle away at the Terran, who will struggle to get to the 6th base. The fact that Byun gets to 5 is pretty good, really. I mean, that is scary for the Terran. It's It's almost like facing a mech Terran. When a mech Terran arrives in a matchup, not this matchup, but other matchups, we often say, stop them from expanding. Don't let them get to their third easily. Don't let them get to the fourth easily. God forbid they get to a fifth, and if they get to a sixth, just give up. Not actually, but yeah. Because they're getting to a perfect army alongside a really strong economy. And you're like, well, I'm never going to break them. This sucks. And even though this isn't mech, we have a similar idea. I mean, the fact that a fifth base is up and running and properly protected means that the Terran doesn't have to run around protecting all their bases. They can more so focus on the engagement, start siege hopping those liberators, bring the ultimate Terran composition across the map. And the closer they get to your base, the less you have time to reinforce and replace army that you are 100% trading. So it's very scary. It's the same type of tempo when the Terran does play very defensive, kind of turtly style, you know, that you talk about when you talk about mech. You can see their efficiency right now, 6,000 resources more used and abused from MaxPax, who needs these extra bases. Very Zergy right now. They literally need the extra bases to beat out the Terran's efficiency. Things are getting very, very scary, however, as the Terran now grabs that sixth, apparently without any repercussions. I suppose now is time to talk about another development that happened before the patch. Let's zoom out from this particular game and talk about the Estrella games that we saw 4 months ago. I do believe that Estrella has shown a new and/or more perfected way of playing late-game Protoss versus Terran. Traditionally, across 15 years of StarCraft 2, honestly, like, super, super turtle games don't happen that often, but when they did, it was usually the Protoss more so has the onus of not getting into that position. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that, actually. That has gone back and forth. Who has the better late-game army has gone back and forth in all matchups across 15 years. It's been a lot of patches. But let's say for the last couple, the Terran kind of has the better late game. The Protoss very hesitant to get to Tempest because not only is the transition expensive and slow, and thus very lethal, I mean, it actually just wasn't as good. Like, they typically would just still die. But they also try to take engagements while going into Tempests. And what Estrella showed 5 months ago was basically get to Tempest, but really get to Tempest. Get to Tempest, Storms, Disruptors, Mothership, all the shit. And then just never move. Now, that's a bit more difficult to do on a big map like Maganatha. I'm very aware of that. So I'm not saying that, that's the end-all, be-all, do it, or if you don't do it, you're stupid. But it is a way that no one was really doing. I mean, just people's own limits of their patience alone would often stop people from playing like Estrella. Because after an hour of doing the same thing, most people would be like, you know what, I don't even care anymore. Let's just end the game one way or another. It is very clear at this time, however, as I've been talking theory, that MaxPax is not doing that, / not given the opportunity to do that. He has been forced to take engagement after engagement and has lost 5 Tempests already, and at no point was there 5 Tempests on the field. They've all been killed one after another. And so his transition over into that late game with Tempest has been a failure thus far, and has been the weak point that every Protoss fears when forced to go into Tempests. This is why they often do not do it. The 2 ways of playing against late-game Terran is either to be so active on the map with ground gateway armies that the Liberators are never well-positioned, the Marauders are never protecting them, whatever, or to get to a good number of Tempests. And most Protoss players just wouldn't go for the latter option, because it was bad. And you can see now the most effective fight that Protoss has had in the last 2 minutes has been won with a pure ground-based army. 2 Tempests arriving did not do shit. Liberators were a little out of position. Bioball was successfully surrounded. That is not an opportunity that's going to be given very often to MaxPax, so he does get the opportunity there, but he knows that that's not a freebie often given. Not that it was a freebie, but it's not an opportunity given. So he is still trying to make that transition over into Tempest as well, something that can actually go against the air of the opponent. But it is so damn difficult for Protoss to do that. Especially when the Viking count has been so high for so long, the Tempest haven't really had a chance. Still 10 Vikings available. They do have that +3 upgrade. They even have 2 plating. Meanwhile, the air upgrade to the Protoss stuck only at that +2. No armor, only 1 shield. I will say, though, if the Terran is a bit reeling, as Byun kind of is, like he has been forced to disengage and run back to his own base, I do wonder if going back into this mass gateway is the way to go. MaxPax was kind of going back into Tempest, and, you know, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, because you are so scared of that late game, but I do wonder, maybe this is the way to go at this point. Liberators are siege-hopping very carefully again. So you can see kind of the way that Byun is also starting to mix and match his own engagements. You know, when it was Tempests that were more so the focus, trying to get to that good number of Tempests, he was going after him. He was trying to kill him before they even got to a good number. When the Bio Ball was starting to push back, or the Gateway Ball was starting to push back on him, he kind of calmed things down, starts siege hopping much more carefully. And then that's where the Gateway army really struggles. Like, it needs to be forcing an engagement over on the far left and the far right and into the main base and keep those Liberators alone or mispositioned to really have a shot. And if they can't do that, you need some range. So you need Tempests, but the Tempests still aren't really being the best thing here. How many have gone down? 8 Tempests have gone down if they feel like they've been mostly ineffective. There's all the indirect things they're doing, like making sure Vikings are still being produced over Liberators. They are still occasionally getting shots and actually killing things, of course, but compared to the efficiency of the Terran, it's not been great. 9,000 now in the hole there for MaxPax as the Liberators siege more and more forward. And their Nexus will go down. Not that it was mining, but it is now dead and gone. Liberators are not only offending, they are moving closer to MaxPax, they're also defending a gold base for the Terran. And MaxPax is running out of resources to mine from. He does still have the gold base over here, which he should probably take at the very least just to get... just to have it, I suppose, when the minerals do run out of his corner bases. He's not thinking of it, he's not prioritizing it. But he is at that 28-minute position where you're literally running out of minerals. You need all the bases, because your efficiency is not quite as good. Liberators, what number are they? 7. Probably could use a few more. If MaxPax, I was speaking of minerals, but gas is also a huge problem. If MaxPax could get to, let's say, 12, I don't know, 10 Tempests, 10 carriers, I don't know. I'd be more of a believer of the air, and he is trying to get there. I think you also wouldn't need that static defense to help out, though. Byun feeling very confident about his army movement. He knows that the Protoss, he just hasn't really been throwing anything his way. The army is very clearly the thing he keeps on scanning right in front of him, so just send a handful of units up to the top right. You could do so for the bottom left as well, and there wouldn't really be much MaxPax could do. Did he just kill 7 Saga Zone over? It's very possible. I missed it, but I have no doubt it happened. Oh, well, that's a mistake right there. Probably just put his Bio Ball back into one hotkey. 10 more Vikings are on the way as Byun realizes, hey, you're going back into producing air. I now need to worry about that first and foremost. MaxPax has a 30, almost 40 army supply lead. And that's because he has lost probes. He hasn't rebuilt them. He hasn't rebuilt the Nexus. He's trying to do what Terran often does. The problem with that is that, well, I'm not going to say it's a problem. I'd say that's a pretty good emergency play, actually. It's just that the Terran has still been so efficient even when they have SCVs keeping their army count low. Let's see if that efficiency continues. I think it might just. Liberator's still helping out in the chokes against the ground. Vikings taking care of the air, and yeah, MaxPax's supply now only 10 ahead of his opponent, so Yeah. As I said, I don't think it's a bad idea at all, but unfortunately, the efficiency is still so good for the Terran. That's a 12,000 resource difference now, so that was really good for Byun. MaxPax, not quite getting to either position you'd really want in late game PvT. Again, either you've taken all the bases, you've taken all the map control, you're attacking in so many directions the Terran can't keep up, or you've actually gotten to a good number of tempos, a good number of carriers, a good number of static defense, and you know, can try and take them mano a mano. Couldn't get to either one. And that is a bit of a ripple effect of the early game, isn't it? If the early game wasn't so bad for MaxPax, he doesn't have to do that play that sacrifices his own army. Does kill Byun, does keep him in the game, I would argue, but still. And then he has the same tempo as he does in every other beautiful PvT he's ever played, where he does have massive amounts of Zealot reinforcements and rebuilds Colossus like he doesn't care, and, you know, keeps a Terran on 4 bases, if that. Couldn't do it this game. And Byun actually ended up playing a game like that pretty well. Just said, you know what? I don't have to try and kill you. Yeah, it sucks I can't kill you easily, like I thought I would after I killed 30 probes. But, yeah, you're going to have to play late game versus me. And I'm going to prepare for that. Extra command centers,